But you got it. We need to see him do this. At the end of the day, you're a pro. You should already know. Boom, I'm hitting the shot. Boom, I'm hitting the shot. I'm staring about it. I'm staring at all the fans. I'm letting all the judges know I am that dude. I am that MFer that's going to win. And until he grasps that, he's going to get put in those second and third call-outs.
I created Species Nutrition with one mission in mind: to provide bodybuilders and serious athletes with no-nonsense supplements that work. I put my name and reputation on every bottle of Species Nutrition products. If you want to be your absolute best, join the evolution. Dave Palumbo here at the 2025 Pittsburgh Pro Men's Open Prejudging. Let out. I'm here with 7-time Mr. Olympia, Phil Heath, Chris the Technician, Aceto, and Matt Greggo. And we're going to do this little wrap up here. Nick Walker back in action after a year. The best we've seen him in quite a while. A real battle between Derek Lunsford, our Arnold Classic champion, former Mr. Olympia, and Nick Walker. Phil Heath, what'd you think?
I was actually really happy for Nick just because we haven't seen him in so long. You know, you see him on the internet, you see what he's very outspoken. He's talking trash with, some of these guys like with Martin and stuff. But it was really good to see him out there. I thought he had a really good aura to him. But, I mean, look, man, he had to go against Arnold Classic champ Derek Lunsford, man, and it was watch that because I'm trying to figure out who's battling at what. The front shots, I'm looking at Derek and I'm like, that is like money. Like the minute Derek walks out, I'm like, okay, that's Mr. Olympia. And then when he raises his arms up and he actually hits that front double bicep and that front lat, your mind just happens to see what a Mr. Olympia should look like, how he carries himself, and the crowd was really showing a heavy response in his favor.
The crowd does love Nick Walker. You can't get away from that. Were you nervous being Derek's coach at all?
No, I mean, the judges got to make up their minds at the end of the day. I agree with Phil. I mean, the way I see the show is it's hard to look past the polish and the lack of flaws with Derek. And then he's got some shots like he doubles in size on the front double bicep.
Yeah, absolutely.
And
you did the same thing back in your day.
Yeah, I mean, like what Chris is saying, I mean, Derek looks phenomenal. Like when he comes out and he goes like this and you're like, your eyes immediately go toward him. And that's what it's about, right? You want to see these exciting power shots. And I think we can agree, like, Derek's got them. I mean, he's got those power shots that really make a difference.
And, short guy, but the legs on the side shots were just way bigger than my expectation for them to look on stage because, of course, he's against a real mass monster, Nick Walker. So I thought that for him to be able to draw your eye on the side chest and the side tricep, including, shockingly, up here, because Nick's a beast. Yes. It is about size. Size is so important, but it's the polish and the flow and the lack of, once they get them through the quarter turns and they get to back shots, when you take the whole sum total, especially in the last call out, I would say my eyes always went to Derek, and that's usually who I, would favor.
Yeah. Look, Nick was really improved. I think a lot of people weren't expecting to see as good a Nick Walker as we did. He is back for sure. He said the mutant's back. He's back. But I agree with both of you guys. I think the polish was just there on Derek Lunsford, and my eyes just kept going at Derek. What'd you think, Matt?
My eyes went to Derek for sure as well. I think Nick is definitely improved from the New York Pro, like substantially improved. His side shots look crazy. His front doubles even improved. Back double, same deal. I think Derek, though, has better balance, better flow. And my eye gets attracted to him, the way he moves the arms in the front double, the way he grabs that energy on stage. I think it's going to be a battle tonight. I'd like to see them both in a little bit sharper. I think especially Nick from the rear. I thought his glutes could have been a little tighter. Yeah, for sure. I think Derek's hams could be a little tighter. I think with Chris, they'll definitely achieve that, and I think it's going to be all out battle for sure.
Did Martin Fitzwater blow it here in the sense that I thought he was a little overblown in the sense that he was too carved up. He looked better at the end when he was sweating.
Yeah, I think so. I think when I watch these guys, I always watch like how they're hitting the poses, but also when they're in transition. And I felt like halfway through the prejudging, you can start to see his confidence go down a bit.
Yes.
And he didn't really get moved around. And Martin wears his heart on the sleeve. And with him wearing that heart on the sleeve, you can kind of tell, like, okay, he's not really feeling himself. The first thing I was saying, I was actually with Sydney Gillen, and I was like, something's off with Martin right now. This is not his most energetic self. And you start to see it overspill a little bit. You know, he spilled a little bit, but I think what he needs to focus on is the stage presence of a professional. He needs to stay there the entire time. And, you know, hopefully come tonight, maybe they do a confirmation round of some sort and he can maybe move up.
You can't lose your cool, like Phil said on stage, even when you're not getting the call-outs you want. What was the problem with Martin Fitzwater?
I think he looked pale in the face, which was odd. So,
the guy he's like Casper the Ghost, though, before he tans. He's got to get a base tan or something.
Yeah, he could use better color. I think he was like super full, and that worked against him. Yeah. And I don't
carved
know,
up?
Well, probably, but I don't know, like, if his mind was on, you know, Nick. Like, okay, how do I battle Nick?
That's what it was.
You know,
absolutely.
You can't. Only Derek can. If Martin outconditioned Nick, he'd still probably not beat Nick. But if Derek outconditions Nick, he beats him.
Right.
So it seemed like he had in his mind, I'm guessing, you know, can I beat Nick? I got to come in full and round, because he was full and round last year, but he was tighter than he was here.
Right. Well, we said the 10 pounds that he said he gained from the Olympia, you said might be a good 10 pounds.
Well, it's always. You know what? It doesn't matter the pounds if it translates on stage. And this time it didn't, because I'll tell you, I did get backstage and I took a peek and I said, wow, Martin looks really big, Nick looks really big. But when I saw him on stage, he didn't have the detail that he had like at the Olympia or when he won the New York Pro, when he was second at the New York Pro.
Detail.
Two examples quickly. So I think that Phil and I just talked about showing your strengths on stage and playing your game. I think Martin did not play his game. His game is conditioning, his shape, structure, the lines he brings in the hams and glutes. He didn't have that. And when I heard he was 12 pounds heavier, I initially thought he wasn't going to be at his best because he tried to play Nick's game, which is the mute and a freak. And for example, Chris and I with Derek, he lost a pound, but it looked like he was 6 pounds bigger. I think if Martin would have came 5 pounds smaller, you know, down, he would have looked 10 pounds bigger. So I think his biggest mistake was trying to play Nick's game and be the freak when he is just a shapely guy, personally.
Yeah, and I think one thing that we're missing here is that everyone, all you guys out there, you continually hear these athletes, they talk about how big they're going to get, how bigger they're going to get. They need to be talking about how better they're going to get.
Right.
Not freaking one damn year did you ever hear me say to be a pound heavier, 5 pounds heavier. You tell me, did I ever say this? Probably not. There was years where I was 248. There was years where I was 240, still won the Olympia.
I don't even know what you ever weighed on stage.
And that was the whole goal. The goal is to make sure that you know who you are, you play to your own strengths. Physique. And when you go away from that, these are the problems that occur.
Lower back, especially.
Lower back. And then you're hoping that they call you out more, because when they did and they turn them around, yeah, back banging. We see all that. Yeah. Glutes and hamstrings finally came them. So the advice that I would have for Martin and for everybody else is that when you're hitting these back shots, it can't just be one hamstring and glute that's flexed. It's got to be both, and it freaking hurts. And that's why open is so hard, because you're so big and you have to contort your body a certain way to make sure the hamstring and glutes are in and the hamstrings hanging, glutes are shredded. When you're watching these shows, and you know whose guy was on my mind that gave everyone some freaking work was William Bonac.
I was going to say Bonac was a surprise.
William gave everyone some work on that back lat spread. From the front, you could tell like his lats aren't popping like they used to. But from the side, he didn't get beat. He wasn't getting his ass whooped. When they turned him around on the back double, I was like, okay. But the back lat spread, I was like looking at the detail, and he's a darker skinned guy.
Yeah.
So I was very impressed because he's an OG. You know, and he brought it, man.
His legs, I thought, looked like they did like 5-6 years ago. I think he could have won the show. I mean, his legs are not what they used to be.
Maybe from the back, I would agree. From the front, they still were flared out. They're still feathered.
But he doesn't have that adductor those freaky big legs. Like
He does have good sweep in his quads, though.
Sweep though. I mean, if we're going by,
if we turn to the side, if you don't have that adductor, you kind of lose some wow.
I agree. I just think with him, you know, he's just trying to get up a placing, right? But the cool thing with having, in my opinion, William Bonac being that lineup of 4 is that he did gain ground on Martin.
You do think he could beat Martin today?
I think he provided a big question as to, did he neutralize Martin? That was the first thing I thought. I was like, wait a minute. I think Bonac may have neutralized Martin to even have a chance to battle Nick and Derek.
Yeah. I thought that Bonac actually took Martin here.
I think Bonac, you can make the argument that he was tight enough and sharp enough all the way through prejudging to land in third. And the key word is neutralize.
Yeah.
And, you know, when I think about it now, his condition is tight enough to get by Martin here.
Because Martin wasn't at his best.
That's right. And you know, he's still side chest, back lat spread. Those are big shots and most muscular. William still has, you know, a very dangerous most muscular.
He was the only one really hitting the crab.
Yeah, that crab shot.
I was like, well,
I want Derek to hit that.
Derek and Nick did not hit a crab, and I'm like, that only helps William in that pose, in my opinion. I will say this with Nick, I was very surprised to see how snatched his waist got on that ab and thigh pose.
Yeah, it's better.
Like, it's got a lot better. I mean, he's a work in progress, as we all know. He's a freak. He's a mutant. We already know that. I do like his energy. I'm excited to see what happens tonight, but your eyes are always going to go toward the champion, Derek Lunsford, with the new package. And, hey, you're the one that's going to help him, you know, succeed. I know he's very excited for here, and I really hope that everything works out smooth for him. I want him just to be rested. Make sure he's rested after this. Make sure he's rested. No more shows for Derek after this.
You know,
he's a little too excited. Yeah.
Phil will agree to this. To peak a Nick Walker, the bigger you are, the more tired you get in the prep.
Yeah.
There's just more to move your body. If you know, you can move a Pinto around up and down the highway all day long, but if you're an 18-wheeler, you burn through fuel, and it's hard to get it going, this and that. So, you know, Bonac's been going.
Yeah.
This is his 3rd show. Right. I know he's doing New York. He needs rest, but, you know, definitely Derek needs rest after the show. It's key, especially when you're at the elite level and you're trying to push yourself. And, you know, even Nick, you know, it's the prep.
He's going to have to do New York. If he doesn't win here.
Because he's big and he's damn big. It takes a lot of energy to get into just one show, let alone, okay, I'm doing New York next week and another show after that.
Well, depending on who wins, obviously. If Nick doesn't win here, we will see him in New York. Crizzo, I thought disappointing.
Yeah, I was disappointed for the major issue, which has always been the issue with him, and that is, you could say legs, but I'm saying presentation. We still see him shaking on stage. He's leaning way too far back on the back double bicep. I wonder who his posing coach is. If you're watching, just review the tape. You'll understand what we're saying. I know you have great intentions. He needs to stand up a little bit more straight on that back double, because he actually he's crunching all of it together, and we're not able to see those rear delts pop. They're shredded. Yeah. The thing with Crizzo that just is remarkable also is that he did have an injury, and he did come back. I'm happy that he showed up, but I want him to be a professional. You're going against the best. You have to look at even Nick Walker, how he sets up the post. William Bonac, Derek Lunsford, they take their time. They don't shake. If I were to compete against someone that's shaking, I know I'm going to be eating their ass up like barbecue chicken, and I'm going to make sure they pay.
Well, it makes the judges look like they're unprofessional.
Absolutely. So, you know, I commend his work ethic. I love the fact that he's out here in the U.S. competing. Of course, he has his most muscular. I love that shot.
Freaky shot.
It's very freaky. But we need to see more. We need to see the bigger legs. We need to have the conditioning. And I think he had good conditioning. I just think for some reason there's a lack of body control that is able for us to see how those tie-ins really play.
He hits his most muscular. He's looking down most of the time.
So and the only person I saw that do that was awesome was Ronnie Coleman. He would make sure, but that was Ronnie Coleman. But you got it. We need to see him do this. At the end of the day, you're a pro. You should already know. Boom! I'm hitting the shot. Boom! I'm hitting the shot. I'm staring
think about it.
I'm staring at all the fans. I'm letting all the judges know I am that dude. I am that MFer that's going to win. And until he grasps that, he's going to get put in those second and third call-outs.
You heard it from seven-time Mr. Olympia, Phil Heath. We won't know who wins till later tonight, so stay tuned for all our coverage on rxmuscle.com. I'm Dave Palumbo, Chris Aceto, Matt Greggo, Phil Heath. We'll see you next time.